courtroom was packed, but still heavy with silence. The kind of silence that comes not from order, but from tension. Officer John Grant stood near the bench, tall, smug, his badge gleaming under fluorescent lights. A black woman had just taken a seat near the back. Nothing remarkable, no press badge, no lawyer's folder, no name called on the docket. Just a quiet presence in an orange blouse. And that was enough to rattle him. He sneered. Is this a courtroom or a reunion for women who can't dress properly? Some chuckled. The woman didn't move. What? You lost? Filing clerk wandered into criminal court? Still no reaction. He walked toward her, hands on his hips, waiting for the fear, waiting for the head to lower. It didn't. The woman, calm, still, looked at him. No defiance, no shame, just watching. And in that moment, something shifted. Grant raised his voice, puffed up with authority. I'm talking to you. Who gave you clearance? She reached into her coat, slow and precise, and turned on a phone. Camera facing forward, a screen lit between them like a mirror. Grant's voice broke. Turn that off. But she didn't. She didn't have to. The room went still. And in the reflection, he saw something that chilled him. Not fear, not confrontation, control. Because what Officer Grant didn't know, what no one in that courtroom knew, was that the woman he just mocked was here to end him. Officer John Grant wasn't new to this game. He'd been called tough, decorated, reliable. But those who crossed him had other names. Predator, abuser, ghost in the system. His reputation inside law enforcement circles wasn't written in awards. It was whispered in silences, buried in sealed reports, and dismissed with phrases like insufficient evidence or subject refused to testify. He had the right friends, the judge who gave him nods instead of rulings, the DA who lost files instead of finding justice. Grant had learned how to wear the law like armor. If he assaulted a civilian, it was a misunderstanding. If a case surfaced, it was closed before it could breathe. The system didn't just protect him, it polished him. And no one, not lawyers, not journalists, not even brave defendants, had been able to bring him down. Because when the walls of the courthouse are built to protect power instead of question it, men like Grant don't get tried. They get promoted. But for the first time, that machine was about to cough, because he wasn't facing another terrified citizen. He was staring down someone who'd studied the system harder than he'd ever learned to exploit it. Her name was Evelyn Bell. You wouldn't have heard of her. That's by design. She didn't march or chant or post statements. She watched, she learned, she remembered. She had been 17 when her father, a school teacher, was arrested outside his classroom for interfering with a police investigation. He'd only tried to break up a fight. Officer Grant had been first on the scene. No witnesses were called, no camera footage reviewed. Her father served 6 months, died 2 weeks after release. That was the day Evelyn stopped trusting the law. But she didn't turn away from it. She dove into it. She studied legal process the way one studies a machine. Not to fix it, but to find where it breaks. She read every wrongful conviction report, mapped court logs, traced complaint patterns, and she discovered something chilling. Officer Grant's name popped up again and again, hidden behind technical dismissals, bad evidence, lost files. Always the same pattern. Evelyn didn't cry for justice. She became it, quietly, methodically. She joined the Department of Justice, not for courtrooms, not for fame, but for access, clearance, reach. Because one day she would sit across from the man who destroyed her family and make sure he never did it again. She never stormed the gates. That's not how systems like this are cracked. Evelyn went in sideways, applied for a clerical position at a federal oversight office, took the jobs no one wanted, old file audits, internal process reviews. She learned what no one dared teach, how evidence disappears, how complaints get rerouted, how courtrooms erase. Over the years, she built a private archive, whispered testimonies from court staff, dismissed audio clips, anonymous affidavits. She traced every case Grant touched, watched which judges helped, which clerks altered entries, which cases disappeared before they were heard. Then came Richmond, a teenage girl assaulted by Grant in custody. No charges. Judge dismissed the complaint in under 24 hours. The girl's mother tried to appeal, got a letter. Case closed. No grounds. Evelyn didn't just take notice. She took leave, under an alias, rented a room, disconnected from the federal system. She moved to Richmond as no one, a shadow, a ghost. She volunteered at the courthouse, delivered mail, watched hearings, and waited. Because she knew Grant couldn't resist intimidating someone in public. He always overplayed his hand. All she needed was for him to pick the wrong woman. And that day finally came. Grant hadn't planned on a scene, but he always needed someone to dominate. Evelyn was perfect, or so he thought. Her quiet unnerved him. His comments escalated, from smug remarks to veiled threats. Then when no one stopped him, to action. He grabbed her by the collar. A courtroom filled with lawyers, defendants, officers, and no one moved. The judge glanced up, then back to his papers. It was a moment meant to humiliate, but Evelyn didn't flinch, didn't resist. She simply pulled out an old phone, plugged in a cable that connected to the courtroom speaker system, and pressed play. First came Grant's voice. Same way as before. Handle it off record. Then the judge. Make sure it doesn't leave the docket. Gasps, whispers. Reporters raised their phones. Evelyn didn't look at them. She looked at Grant, and then she spoke, for the first time all day. My name is Evelyn Bell, investigator, Office of the Inspector General, Department of Justice. She placed her badge beside the phone like a blade. The silence was nuclear. Grant stepped back, his hand still hovering where it had clutched her. His badge suddenly looked like paper. The judge froze, his gavel untouched, his power gone. Evelyn didn't shout, she didn't accuse. She let the room witness itself. This isn't a trial for Officer Grant, she said. This is a test to see if this courtroom still belongs to justice, or just those who think they are above it. The room didn't erupt. It exhaled, for the first time in years. The fallout began before the doors reopened. Reporters raced to transmit what they'd heard. Attorneys whispered to each other. Phones rang in courthouse offices where no phones had ever rung during trial hours. The judge remained seated but no longer composed. His hands trembled. One by one, people in the courtroom turned, not to him, but to Evelyn. A federal badge wasn't just a symbol, it was a detonator, and she had just lit it. Outside, the story spread like fire. Audio leaked, names revealed, Grant's history unearthed. Suddenly, every case he'd touched was back under scrutiny. An internal review committee convened that same week. But it wasn't internal for long. The press was at the door. Civil rights attorneys filed motions. Human rights observers requested access. The courtroom that once silenced dissent had been flipped, not by rage, not by protests, by one woman, one file, one voice, and the system realized something it had long forgotten. When truth enters a room full of silence, it doesn't need permission to speak. Evelyn didn't appear on camera. She didn't take interviews. While others spoke her name, she returned to shadows. She hadn't come for fame. She came for closure. Years ago, her father had written her a letter from prison. Don't chase revenge. Chase the leak where justice gets lost. She never forgot that. Her career wasn't built in courtrooms, but in storage rooms, in overlooked files, in forgotten reports. She knew where the system hid its shame, and she learned to use its own tools against it. People think whistleblowers are rebels. Evelyn was a mechanic. She studied the engine of injustice until she knew exactly which bolt to turn, so the whole thing fell apart. Officer Grant never saw it coming, because the most dangerous person in the room is the one you think doesn't belong there. She didn't stop at Grant. The day after the courtroom incident, 3 encrypted drives reached independent media outlets. Evidence, transcripts, surveillance records. A copy was sent to the Inspector General, another to a Civil Rights Commission, the final one to the families of those who'd once filed complaints and never heard back. Evelyn made sure the truth wouldn't be locked away again. Grant was suspended. The judge placed under federal investigation. Quietly, the foundations trembled. But Evelyn, she was already gone. No press release, No retirement speech, just the sound of a system being dismantled, one sealed record at a time. I've spent 40 years watching the law work and watching it fail. I've seen good people buried under bad rulings and bad people wear uniforms like armor. But every now and then, someone changes the game, not with noise, not with fame, but with stillness. Evelyn Bell didn't shout down a courtroom. She stared it down. She didn't demand justice. She delivered it, quietly, precisely, unflinchingly. And in doing so, she reminded us that the most powerful force in any system isn't fear or title or tradition. It's truth. Spoken plainly, acted upon. She wasn't trying to make a statement. She was making an example. And every time I step into a courtroom now, I look around and wonder, who else have we underestimated? Because justice doesn't always come in through the front door. Sometimes it walks in quietly and leaves the whole room changed.